9. March 1st is the deadline for farmers who don't pay their quarterly estimates but pay their tax on March 1st. So we have tax returns that we're working on today for all the farmers. So just as a little accounting CPA lesson for everybody this morning.
Can I get an extension?
It's too late. It's way too late. Okay, we appreciate everybody being here. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for the invocation by Jeff Pishney. I'm sorry, Jeff. Love our cities. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, right before I share this invocation, I just got to share this exciting update. In April 30th, there will be 10 Stanislaus County cities that will be having a citywide volunteer day. And so in a month, you're going to see signs all over our county. Love Waterford, love Oakdale, love Patterson, love Modesto. All these cities loving on their city. So April 30th is going to be an amazing day in our community. So I'm super excited about that. I just want to let you know, too, that that is not the end goal, though. The volunteer day doesn't solve everything. But hopefully it's a start for ongoing continual pride, ongoing continual involvement and volunteerism in our community here. So thank you all for your support. Man, it's awesome to live here and to really work together to make this community the best it can be. Let me pray. God, thank you so much for Stanislaus County, this home, this place in which we live and that we love. God, this is where you have us, God. And God, I thank you that I get to be in a room full of people here and stand before my leaders here who love this community as much as I do. And God, I know we have challenges here. God, we've been having challenges. We're going to continue having challenges. But God, help us not just to focus on the challenges, but also focus on the amazing, beautiful attributes and qualities of this place that we live here. Help us to work through the challenges and be honest, but also to focus on resolving the challenges and on the amazing, just the beauty of life here in Stanislaus County. And God, I pray for my leaders I stand before right now. God, I pray for each of them. Pray blessings on them. God, I pray blessings on their family, blessings on their employment. And God, I pray that you would give them wisdom beyond themselves in this meeting today, as well as in future meetings. And God, I pray that as much as possible, that there would be unity among our leaders and unity among the people of our county. In your name I pray this. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff, thank you very much. Take care. Okay, we're going to move on to our public comment. We do have some written, just acknowledge that we do have some written statements that have been turned into us here. Also, we're not going to read those, but those, just for the record, those are here. So, okay, we'll start off with Susan Padilla. Susan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, board members. I was told that the Board of Supervisors handles a variety of administrative and legislative responsibilities that affect the county's residents. I have attended every meeting in February looking for support in filing a complaint with the HEPA privacy officer, but none exist in this county. Instead, I have been given apologies from the Director of Stanislaus Social Services, Mrs. Amanda Sharp, on February 8, 2022, about the abuse and fraudulent HUD certification of the community housing and shelter services that still appears today on the county's website as HUD certified, and it's not. It has never been affiliated with the federal agency. But when it comes to matters of rezoning a residential land use area into a commercial building during the middle of a pandemic, when we're all worried about not catching COVID and dying, you're here rezoning residential areas into commercial areas, building a giant building in the middle of my neighborhood. You acted precipitously while residents were trying to not die and were on quarantine. You passed that on April 28th, 2020, in the middle of our pandemic, of our global pandemic. It was plan number 201-90045. It was on April 28th of 2020. It was to be built by December 2021, but construction is ongoing in my neighborhood. This giant building is overlooking all of my neighbors' backyards and down our street. It is ridiculous. I was also told that during this time, you could call in to say that you don't want this building built, but I understand that the number that was given was disconnected. I just want you to, I'm going to leave you with John 14:18. I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. In this time of Lent, this is the last time that I'm coming here. I'm going to offer it up to the Lord, because He is the only one that can change the lies, the rhetoric, the back and forth that I'm getting from this board. From you, Chairman Terry Withrow. Did you read the comments that I sent today? Did you read them? Did you get a chance to read it this time?
I sure did, Susan.
Okay, and what is your response?
Yeah, I'm going to let Jody respond really quickly.
You are my chairman.
That's right, I am.
I live in Salida. I'm asking you, Terry, to answer. Mr. Hayes has been more than
Susan,
gracious in helping me out.
Yeah, and I've answered you too, but so...
No, you haven't.
So, Susan, are you asking about your comments here today regarding this building
I'm
that's
asking
taking
about
place, or-
everything. Remember last time you said that you would read it after the meeting?
Yeah.
So did you read it after the meeting?
Yes, I did, and so
Okay.
I can tell you, I have confirmed that our staff has talked to you about all the issues.
No,
and
they
dealt with
have
all
not.
the issues.
No, they have not.
Okay.
I got 10 business cards. Every time I come, they give me a business card to a disconnected number or to a number that I need to wait on hold for 30 minutes to get help. Is that help? Because I haven't received any. My daughter had raw sewage coming in to her apartment unit that was supposed to be HUD certified, that I found out was not, after she had given all her personal information to those HUD officers that were not. Nobody did anything about that. That is 1128 9th Street. It's still open, and it's disgusting and filthy. You have to respect the dignity of the human person. I was born black. You understand that? That's what I was born.
Susan, so we do respect everybody's...
No, you don't.
And we're doing all we
No, you
can to
don't.
try to help you, and we will continue to do all we can to try to help you.
So
I
how
can
about
just
that
tell you
big building that's on the corner of my street that didn't get any permits, that I
Okay.
went over to...
It went through the whole process.
No, it
Susan.
didn't. No, it...
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
Susan, I'm afraid we're done for today, so...
We're always done.
We'll get together with you again. Thank you for coming in. Okay. Next up, I think we might as well go with you, Margaret, since you seem ready to go here.
It's the same issue. You guys hand out permits without any plans, without anything. All right, so if the sheriff's here, he needs to pay attention, and so do you. Where are you, Jody? You need to pay attention because there's going to be a quiz, and the quiz is going to be on the witness stand. Now, I could never quite figure out why I had to pay for my appeal, because you don't pay for your constitutional right. It is a right that you have. So when you mailed me the letter on May 9th that you had already issued a permit on May 8th, and I met with you, the neighbors met with you, that was our appeal. But in June, since you had issued the permit, you had to come to me and ask me for money to appeal, because you had to take it before the Board of Zoning adjustment. which is where it was reversed. So I'm on both sides. Now, when Mr. Bose looked at this Code 29 that we met with you about, this permit that we met with Building Safety, and then he looked at the Code 92 and knew it was successful, he was a little ill, and he should be, because it was overturned. Now, we're going to go to court, and Mr. Hayes, Suite 6800, I have a letter that says he has absolutely no documents. None. So when we get there, there better be no documents after 9/26 that aren't signed by the building inspector, who is our hearing officer. Now, Ms. Freitas and Ms. Linder have been exchanging love letters for 10 years. Okay? All through this building. Everybody on the 6th floor knows, because the recording secretary came back to the city of Modesto and said, yep, overturned, we're screwed. And Mr. Hayes went, well, let's set another hearing. Let's set 11/12/13 where we hit Mrs. Countryman with a restraining order. And then we come back in 2016 and we try and keep it up for another 5 years, which would be up until last year, because we lied to her during these hearings. But it doesn't matter. You were reversed. And so when we get there, because Liz says she doesn't have a document, not one document regarding those hearings. Mr. Hayes doesn't have one document, not a court document regarding those hearings, where you have properties talking against a building of one property of the subject parcel. Now, I've explained to you why you had to come back to me and get the money after we'd already sat down for our appeal. Let me have one more it was a motion action. Do you know what that is? It means the motion required action not taken by Mr. Hayes and the district attorney regarding a building.
Okay, so that was a good start to the meeting. Let's move on to our next public comment. Zach. It's a tough act to follow, Zach, but I'm going to give you a shot.
I'll give it my best shot. Chair Withrow, members of the board, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be heard. My name is Zach Trevon, and I'm an attorney whose practice is focused on cannabis policy and licensing over the last 6 years, including multiple facilities here in Stanislaus County, continuing to operate in good standing under the county's program, and which have contributed hundreds of thousands of dollars in community benefit contributions over the last 5 years. I stand before you this morning on their behalf, asking for your thoughtful consideration and assistance in their effort to survive a market in which the value of cannabis has lost over 60% of its value over the course of the last year. The precipitous decline in the market is due to several factors, including a continuing draw of consumers to black market purveyors who pay no impact fees, let alone any costs related to regulatory compliance or public safety, and offer their product at a fraction of the cost. Over the last 2 years, a vast majority of permitted facilities in the county have operated in substantial conformance with local and state regulation. Additionally, through the collection of impact fees during this period, the county has been able to validate the intent of its program through the funding of several county staff and sheriff department positions, which has advanced enforcement of commercial regulations, as well as enforcement efforts against illegal operations. This does not mean that these businesses have not experienced technical and logistical difficulties along the way, and I want to take this opportunity to commend you and your staff, and specifically thank Mr. Bose, Tara Chumley, Jeremy Ballard, Angela Freitas, and Christy Dowd, and many others for their assistance and collaborative posture in administering the county's regulations thus far, and Mr. Hayes, did not mean to leave you out. Thank you as well. That said, based on the successful performance record of local businesses and absence of any widespread negative effect on the community at large, it can be said that the prospective impacts of legal businesses anticipated by the county at the outset of the program, which served to substantiate the initial impact fee rates, community benefit contributions, and payment structure, were overestimated. Under current market conditions, local businesses who have invested into transparency and compliance have been left reeling, with their livelihoods as well as the viability of the county's program on the brink of collapse. In recent months, local jurisdictions throughout the state have been acting in response to these conditions in order to support their local programs and operators and save them from folding. Humboldt County reduced their local tax rate by 85%. City of San Francisco granted a one-year tax holiday throughout 2022. Atwater eliminated mandatory minimum payments. Sonoma provided an extension on overdue payments with no penalty. City of Merced reduced their initial rates over a year ago, and just 2 weeks ago, Calaveras County reduced their tax rate by 60%. A local Calaveras farmer in this presentation to the board made a compelling agricultural analogy to sheep ranching, that their leaders could sit back and watch the flock be led to slaughter once and feast under tax rates established years ago under much more favorable market conditions, or provide the relief necessary to care for their flock so that the county may continue to shear the sheep and benefit the community year after year. Accordingly, we are before you today with a humble request that the current development agreement community benefit rates be restructured and reduced to allow our businesses to survive this extremely difficult time. Specifically, we would call for the elimination of mandatory minimum payments for all non-cultivation uses, with a reduction of the cultivation canopy rates to $2 per square foot for greenhouse and $3 per square foot for indoor, as well as the reduction of the retail impact fee rate to 5% and reduction of the distribution and manufacturing impact fee rates to 1%. Moreover, we are asking for the elimination of the community benefit contributions imposed as charitable contributions collected by the county on behalf of nonprofits, regardless of the volume of revenue produced, let alone the relative financial health of the businesses upon which they are imposed. Just as any business, we should be entitled to choose the recipients, amounts, and timing of charitable contributions, as well as to the benefit of tax deductions. As you may know, cannabis businesses independently engage in charitable contributions in the community, including food drives, community cleanups, and over the last 2 years, contributions of storage facilities and supplies for COVID relief efforts. Other local municipalities commonly approve such non-monetary donations from cannabis operators as community contributions. Restructuring the impact fee rates would allow existing cannabis businesses to complete facility improvements, be awarded formal occupancy to perfect business licensure, and reinvest into increasing the production and workforce necessary to drive a greater volume of business and increase profitability, along with the aggregate contributions to the county and community at large. As the seeds of goodwill were planted at the outset of this program, we are asking you now with the utmost respect, please allow us the opportunity to survive and thrive so that the positive impacts to the community in the form of jobs, continuing economic stimulus, and reinvestment into this community can continue to blossom. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Zach, thank you very much. We'll get back to you.
Thank you.
All right, take
Appreciate
care.
your
Hey,
thoughtful
Zach,
consideration.
I was trying to take notes. Would you send me a letter or just send me your comments so that we can have that and be able to review those?
Absolutely.
Thank
I will
you,
do
Zach.
that today. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Zach. Okay, next up we have Celestia Love. Did I pronounce that right, Celestia?
You did pronounce it right, which is amazing because nobody ever does.
How are you this morning?
I'm a little nervous, but I'm happy to be here. I
happy
thank
you're
you
here.
guys for taking the time to listen to me, and here we go. Okay, thank you. Last week, I had some issues with, I've been having issues with my son and mental health issues for a couple of months. My daughter and I have tried to get him help, and it's gotten progressively worse. So we reached out to the Stanislaus Behavioral Center, who advised us to contact the non-emergency police line, and that they would come out and assess my son and take him into custody and put him in a mandatory 72-hour hold so that he could be evaluated. We did that. The sheriff's department came out. My son walked into the house and refused to speak to them, and they left. The next day, it was very much worse. My son was hearing voices in his head. My son was banging his head against the wall, telling us that he wanted to commit suicide so that he could make the voices stop, threatening to kill us because now we're the enemy, and he's hearing all of these voices in his head. Earlier that day, I had contacted the Stanislaus Behavioral Center and asked them what my options were since my son would not speak to the police. They told me to call 911 and explain our situation to them and tell them that he didn't have weapons if that were the case, and that they would come out and that they would again assess and take my son into custody and get him to a psychiatric evaluation. The sheriff did come out after we called 911 6 times. It took them an hour and a half to respond. And I understand that we're not the only person on their plate, and I get that, but at the time that we called them, we were in danger, and it took them an hour and a half to respond. When they got there, the sergeant, who was, I'm assuming, the responsible party, we explained to him that my son was hearing voices in his head, that we wanted to have him placed on a 5150 hold. The sergeant told me that they were there to enforce the law and that they were not going to do that. I'm a little confused because the Welfare and Institutions Code 5158 is part of the law, so I don't understand how they could not attempt to enforce it. I also have read enough of it that I know that they could have taken statements from my daughter and I about my son's mental stability and the voices in his head and the threats of suicide and the threats to us, and they could have taken him into custody and put him on a 5150 hold. What ultimately happened, because we weren't safe at that point in my home, the sergeant on scene politely informed me that they were not going to do what we wanted and that they could call a victim's assistance and get us help and put us in a motel, or I could press charges against my son to get him out of the house, get a restraining order, get him out of the house. My daughter and I could not leave our house. It's our house, and it wasn't going to get my son into a safe place. So ultimately, I made the hard choice to have my son arrested. The police had no problem asking me permission to go into my house and arrest my son, but they refused to get permission to enter my house and take him to some place where he could get help. Now, I realize that they have a lot on their plate, and that, as I said, we're not their only person that they have to take care of, but we begged them to please just put him on a 5150 hold. So now my son is in jail where he's not going to get any help, and he's charged with the felony for the assault on us because there was physical assault because of the voices in his head. I'm here to try and get education for our police people, to get education for our behavioral health people, to help people and families like mine, because my family is not the only family in our community that has faced these issues. And while me being here is not going to help my family at this point, I'm hoping that you guys will be able to assist other families moving forward.
So Celestia, thank you for coming here, first of all, and I'm heartfelt sorry for what you and your family are going through right now. I'm going to let you talk with Ruben Imperial, our department head for BHRS. He's in the back here, and we are going to figure out a way to help you through this thing. So it's good you came here today, and everybody, law enforcement, everybody was trying to do what they could. It's a tough situation, but we are here to help you, and we're going to help you get through this and help your son too. So if you wouldn't mind, Ruben's sitting here in the back, and he can talk with you some more, and we'll figure out what we're going to do here.
And I appreciate that more than you know. And I didn't come here to bash the police department. I came here to try and get help for families like mine.
We totally understand. We appreciate you being here. We're glad you came.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Okay. Next up, I have, darn it, I'm sorry. It's Alila Escamala? Alayla Escamalia? Escamalia. I am sorry. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm representing Southside, Park Lawn and Olivero Street for infrastructure. And today I have brought two ladies with me. that have helped me, well, they've gone up and down the streets getting signatures, which I gave to Mr. Condent, and we're just here just to, so you guys won't forget about us. We're still there, and we still need infrastructure a lot. Okay, thank you.
Okay. If we could, just one quick...
Yes.
Thank you very much for being here this morning. I did just want to note, I have reviewed the signature sheet that we were provided. There is a statement in here that says that in spring 2022, the County Board of Supervisors will decide what communities will receive funding for infrastructure updates.
Yes.
I'm sorry to inform you, that's actually not the timeline that we're on. Those decisions will not be made until this fall. Right now, we're going through the process of doing community outreach and receiving information, receiving feedback on the process.
Okay.
But the board will not be making those decisions
Until the
for
fall?
many months from
Okay,
now.
well, the
Yes.
next flyers I print, I'll make sure I put that on.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Alila, for coming. Okay, that's all the speaker cards that I have. Is there anybody else that would like to come on up? Whoever's ready? Good morning, how are you?
Great, thank you. My name is Shireen Richards, and
Pull that mic up a little bit, there we go.
yes, my name is Shireen Richards, and I'm the co-program manager at Esperanat, and on whose behalf I will be presenting today in regards to the American Rescue Plan Act funding, so that the ARPA funding. So I just wanted to kind of give some information about Esperanat and the services we provide, so thank you for this opportunity. Esperanat has seen increasing evidence of distress in our clients as the COVID pandemic has continued. Key areas of concern include an increase in suicide ideations, increase in substance use, increase in reported adverse childhood experiences, and fewer connections to social support and preventative care. As an agency, being part of the community, we face the negative impact of COVID in our staffing levels and in our business processes as we had to pivot from providing in-person services to virtual classes and assessments for our programs. At the Turlock Family Resource Center, the receipt of the ARPA contract will provide additional funding for us to continue providing services to the diverse Turlock community at any socioeconomic level that are facing the negative impacts of this pandemic. The numbers of COVID-positive cases fluctuates depending on the surges. However, as our agency builds partnerships with other community-based organizations, Esperanat is prepared to assist those customers that may not be aware of resources that they can tap into and is available for them, such as burial assistance, applying for public assistance, rental assistance, most importantly, food and items of need that they may have been more readily available to them and easier access pre-COVID. Our agency has supported staff and community well-being by using the Community Resiliency Model, which is called CRIM for short, that is held every morning at 9 a.m. via the Microsoft Teams platform. The CRIM model is designed to help individuals understand the biology of traumatic stress, reactions, and learn specific skills to return the body, mind, and spirit back to balance after experiencing traumatic events. Staff is also encouraged to use the CRIM model to support self-care and maintain resiliency. CRIM is introduced to our clients in the community also, and families to give them tools for self-regulation for those who are experiencing extraordinary fear, stress, and trauma. The Trauma Resource Institute's iChill application provides guidance on the use of Community Resiliency Model, wellness skills, including simple information on how stress affects the mind and body. This application is available on our staff work cell phones to utilize and provide additional resources to staff and our clients and families as well. Esperanat has continued to provide services and necessities to clients during the pandemic while adhering to CDC guidelines. The agency was able to provide masks, bottles of hand sanitizer, disinfectant sprays, and other items to help families and staff remain as safe as possible during the pandemic. Clients were able to come to the center by appointments to pick up the household items that they needed, and the agency continues to support vaccination, testing, and exercising COVID protocols with staff, and we continue to share free resources with our families as we become aware of them. With the ARPA funding, our agency will provide individualized navigation and referral services to clients that continue to require assistance for mental health, suicide prevention, educational classes for parents with a curriculum provided by Stanislaus County's first 5 commission, work with clients that have been referred to by Child Protective Services social workers using the differential response model to provide assessments and referrals as identified by both the client and our family liaison staff. With additional barriers such as death of a parent or caregiver, loss of shelter causing homelessness, and/or illnesses that may have been linked to or caused by the impact of COVID, our agency is prepared to work closely with these individuals and families to refer them to partnering agencies for further assistance as a warm handoff, which guarantees that contact was made with resources for our customers. That alone is reassuring for some individuals and families who do not have a form of support to rely on. We provide services at our agency focused on the 5 protective factors of parental resilience, positive social connections, knowledge of parenting and child development, concrete support in times of need, social and emotional competence for children. Our mission is to provide children, youth, and families with a foundation of support services so they can succeed at home, at school, and in our communities. The community, which is who we are all part of. The services that the ARPA funding will provide will enable Esperinet to provide our services to our clients in a welcome sign of relief. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Shereen. And I think you were, I should have caught this before, but I think this is, you're here today about item 6.1.
Yes,
Which is,
yes.
Okay, so darn it, I should have stopped you and had you, but that's okay. And you can still, we'll come to that item, and you can still, if you have more comments, discuss that then. This was just, and I probably wasn't very clear, this public comment is for anything that's not on the agenda. And then, but yeah, and so that's okay. We still heard you very loud and clear.
Awesome.
Thank you for that. And we will, when we get to this item, if you want to speak more about it.
Sure.
That's great. We'll bring you back up here
Okay.
if you'd like to. And I think, Jody, did you want to?
Yeah, just for the members of the public who are here, or the audience listening in, I had just made some comments on our timeline for the infrastructure component of ARPA, and I had mentioned fall. I did confirm with our team, it may occur as early as August. So technically, August is summer. So we did stop the folks who were here under public comment just prior on the way out to let them know that August is probably our earliest time frame for expenditure of those ARPA infrastructure funds. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Shereen. We'll come back to that item. If you want to speak more, we'll be happy to have you
I
back.
think that was all.
Okay, very good. Thank you for being here. Okay, any other public comments? I don't have any speaker cards, but anybody else? Okay, I was just thinking, if I could, before we move on to the other items here, our first 2 speakers that we had here in public comment, if someone just tuned in today and that was the first time that they've seen these individuals, you would think, what is the county doing? Why aren't they helping these people? But we have been, and we will continue. I mean, that's what we're here for. That's what all of us are here for, to try to help people, just like Celestia, who's here. We do, and we will continue to do all we can to try to help these individuals through the situations that they're in. Sometimes we just can't get there. There's just, for whatever reason, we can't find a solution for what's going on in their lives right now. But it's not from lack of effort. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we give everything we have, our staff gives everything we have, we're here to serve the people, and we will do all we can to help these individuals. And then in particular, the first 2 public speakers that we had, like I said, if you just turned in today, first time you've seen these individuals, you'd think, what is the county doing? But I can tell you that we are doing everything we can to try to help these people to the extent they'll let us help them. So anyway, just want to clear that up for what that's worth. Okay. So now we will move on. If we don't have any other public comments, we will move on to our consent calendar. Is there any item on the consent calendar that anybody at the board here would like to pull? Anybody from the audience like to pull any items from the consent calendar to talk about? Seeing none, we will bring it back to the board for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. We will move on now to item 6, discussion items. Approval to award agreements for the provision of American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA Navigation and Case Management Services. Mandy, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning. Still jotting down notes, so hopefully I haven't missed anything here.
Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, CEO Hayes, Board of Supervisors. I'm Amanda Sharp, and I'm the CSA Director in Stanislaus County, and I'm here joined today with Assistant Director of our StanWorks Division, Delilah Vasquez, and some of our staff who are in the audience. Also joined by community-based organizations, including Espirinet, who was just speaking a moment ago. Today I'm here to share information about our proposed support for community-based organizations in the county using 2021 American Rescue Plan Act funds. So just a brief overview, the American Rescue Plan Act, in March of 2021, the Plan Act, ARPA, was signed into law and established the Corona State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. These funds are intended to provide support to jurisdictions, local and state governments responding to the economic and public health impacts of COVID-19. And there are quite a number of different uses of the ARPA funds that can be determined at the jurisdiction level. The legislation, just a quick background to level set here, includes a lot of funding, direct funding to every county in America, metropolitan cities and non-entitlement jurisdictions, and states. And as you know, and I mentioned, ARPA funding can be used by jurisdictions in a lot of different flexible ways to support recovery from the impacts of COVID-19. So I want to just take a moment to highlight how this county has decided, how your board has prioritized the use of ARPA funding. Four main funding priorities include supporting families in need, community infrastructure, just mentioned a moment ago, community development corporation, and economic growth and job creation. And I wanted to take a moment to highlight these priorities made by the board, especially highlighting the center column on this slide, the $5 million for supporting families and individuals. This is why we're presenting today. This funding is evidence of your board's support of our community and our community-based organizations to strengthen communities at the level and in the locations where people actually live, in our own communities. There are a few reasons why, and also information on this slide about who. The purpose of supporting families in need, as determined by this board, is, and the county has implemented, is that the pandemic has exacerbated social inequities, preventing some individuals and families from taking advantage of programs and services. And so this presentation today is helping us get funds into the community in partnership with CSA to community-based organizations, including family resource centers, for navigation services and capacity building. And this work is going to directly support strengthening families at the community level. These priorities and reasons why, and these identified partners, align with ARPA funding mandates, of course. But I think I just want to take a moment to illustrate that they don't just, this plan and this action today doesn't just align with ARPA. It's important, as I learn more about the county and our strategic focus, the focus areas of the board, that this action aligns with the board's focus areas of strengthening families in our community. So it's important to highlight that connection between the county's priorities and the board's focus on serving our community at the community level. And this funding puts that word into action in the community.
Good morning. On September 17, 2021, the General Services Agency Purchasing Division issued a request for proposal on behalf of the Community Services Agency for the provisions of American Rescue Plan Navigation Case Management Services. The goal of the RFP was to generate proposals for each specific geographical area of Stanislaus County for the provisions of ARPA navigation and case management services. The RFP requested that potential proposers submit a separate proposal for each area they were interested in serving. The geographical areas were established using existing data from services rendered by the county. The calculation includes population size and the number of referrals received in each area. The areas were established to ensure there is adequate funding to support navigation and case management services in these prospective areas. Area A representing Turlock, Area B representing West County, consisting of Patterson, Crow's Landing, Newman, Vernalis, and Wesley. Area C representing Ceres and Keys, Area D, Modesto, Area E representing North Modesto and Salida, and Area F, Southeast County, consisting of Houston, Denair, Empire, Hickman, Keys, LaGrange, Empire, and Waterford. And Area G, Northeast County, representing Oakdale, Valley Home, and Riverbank. The RFP was sent electronically to 132 vendors, and a non-mandatory conference was held on October 1st, 2021, with 16 vendors in attendance. The RFP closed on October 15th, 2021, and GSA received a complete response from 5 vendors: Aspiranet, Center for Human Services, RH Community Builders, Sierra Vista Child and Family Services, and Stanislaus Multicultural Health Coalition, West Modesto, King Kennedy Neighborhood Collaborative. A committee comprised of representatives from the Community Service Agency and the Chief Executive Office was established to evaluate the proposals. Based on the evaluation scores for each proposal, the following awards are recommended. Area A, approximately $732,000. Area B, $512,000 approximately, and Area C, approximately $300,000. Area D, approximately $1.2 million. Area E, approximately $1.6 million. Area F, $313,000. Area G, and approximately $428,000. 2 vendors were awarded contracts in Area D to reflect the high usage of social service programs in the geographical areas. In addition, both organizations offer unique plans to achieve the goals reflected in the RFP. The cost of the ARPA agreements for navigation and case management services is approximately $2.5 million for the period of March 2022 through June 2023, and $2.5 million for the period of July 2023 through December 2024, which will cover the entire award of $5 million. The funds must be used by December 31st, 2024, and all projects funded with ARPA completed by December 31st of 2026. The following activities are anticipated as a result of this partnership: linking and/or completing a warm handoff of an individual and/or family to service providers and/or services within the community to address their individual needs. Collaborating with the individual and/or family from the initial point of contact until services are no longer required to provide individualized care by assessing their needs, case planning, monitoring their progress, and burial removal to assist with service delivery options and goal achievement. Resolving the challenges of accessibility, application assistance, documentation, transportation, interpretation, and other support to meet the unique needs of individuals and families seeking services in response to COVID-19. Access to and assistance in applying for public benefits, employment counseling and job training, housing stability support such as rental assistance, mortgage assistance, and utility assistance, educational resources, and food and nutrition programs. ARPA has provided unprecedented resources to assist the community from the effects of COVID-19. These agreements will strengthen families through these important community partnerships. Family resource centers and community-based organizations are community-based, family-focused, and culturally sensitive hubs of support and resources that provide programs and targeted services based on the needs and interests of families. These partnerships are crucial to support the development of strong communities through support for parents, children, and elderly residents of Stanislaus County. This funding will improve staffing capacity at our family resource centers and community-based organizations and allow them to maximize their ability to respond to the community with COVID-19 response and recovery. Several of the CBOs and FRCs are present today, and I invite them to stand. I'd like to thank them for their participation and being here this morning. And we have 3 staffing recommendations before you this morning. The first is to approve the award of the agreements by the Community Services Agency for the provisions of ARPA navigation and case management services to Aspiranet, Center for Human Services, Sierra Vista Child and Family Services, and Stanislaus Multicultural Health Coalition, West Modesto, King Kennedy Collaborative. The second is to authorize the Community Services Agency Director or her designee to sign the agreements and any amendments up to $200,000 with Aspiranet, Center for Human Services, Sierra Vista Child and Family Services, and Stanislaus Multicultural Health Coalition, West Modesto, King Kennedy Collaborative. And lastly, direct the Auditor Controller to make the necessary budget adjustments as identified in the fiscal section of this report and the attached budget journals. This concludes our presentation, and we're available to respond to any questions.
Very good. Thanks, Mandy and Delilah. Okay, any questions from the board of Mandy or Delilah? Okay, out to the public. Any questions or additional? Come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
My name's Megan Shore. I've actually been kind of gathering some information just as far as like children and suicide, and I haven't yet gotten anything from 20 to 22. From 2020 to 2022 to present day, is any of that money going to go towards those services or possible like psychiatric beds for minors?
This funding wouldn't be for psychiatric beds, but there are supportive services for most of the agencies that are going to be supported, and some of them may want to speak to the services they provide related to suicide prevention or services to youth.
Okay, well, I just know in this county we have a major mental health crisis, as we had the lady that spoke. Like, this has been going on far before the COVID pandemic, and there's just not the resources out there. So I've been kind of trying to gather information just because I feel like we have a lot of extra money that's floating around, and it would be nice if it could go to things that could benefit our community as far as that, especially with our children, you know? Like, we know that our children are struggling, like, I don't know, like, that's the #2 cause of death is suicide from kids from 10 to 34. And like, I just pulled an article actually from 2020 from the Modesto Bee, and from May to September of 2020, there was a 46% increase in suicide related calls and everything else, and from 2019. So I mean, I feel like we definitely know that it's a prevalent issue in our community. So I mean, I personally would like to see, you know, I mean, we have a lot of extra COVID money floating around, plus the $5 million that if we could go, I mean, adults too, but.
So some of the recovery support services that were indicated in the RFP and the respondents, the folks who are going to be awarded, includes behavioral health services, counseling, crisis intervention, substance use disorder programs, wellness programs, early childhood development, access and enrollment assistance to health care, so that if people are covered by health care, they would have access to those services provided. Educational resources, counseling services, including job training assistance and other things. So it's a pretty wide variety of services that are supported. And these are at community-based organizations, family resource centers, where in the communities where people live. So we're very hopeful that those services will help people access what they need in response to COVID-19. The dates you're mentioning are specifically the period of time when COVID has created, wreaked havoc on our community and kids and families in the community.
Okay, because you said with insurance. So what if those people that need those services that don't have insurance, I mean, do they fall into?
Well, that's the point, is helping them enroll. The Community Service Agency, Delilah's division in particular, one of our major efforts that we do in the Community Service Agency is assist people in enrollment for health care coverage. So this funding would help at the community-based organization level, getting people connected to application and assisting them with application for health care coverage. That's just one of the many things that they can do with this funding.
Okay, awesome. Hopefully we see a good positive from that. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Megan. And I would just add to that, with regard to mental health services and our Medi-Cal providers, there was a law that was passed recently that has really required these Medi-Cal providers that we have in our county, HealthNet and Health Plan of San Joaquin, I think, the two that we have. It's required them to actually encourage people to get mental health services and to pay for them through their insurance, through Medi-Cal, to pay for that. So it's an area that's really growing now, and we're really, as a result of legislation, that it's requiring these Medi-Cal providers to not only provide physical health, but mental health services, and to pay for those for people. So anyway, a lot of good stuff's going on.
I just know, like, say if somebody's having a mental health crisis and they go into doctors, which is, the county hospital, like, there are not services that are available, right? If somebody's in the middle of a crisis and they go in, there's nothing that they can do. Then they're like, oh, well, we'll help you get insurance to go see, a psychiatrist. Well, that takes 1 to 2 weeks, and that could potentially be too late. You know what I mean? I don't have all the right answers. These are just things that have been kind of circulating. So thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
I see Cindy was raising her hand. She can probably answer
Perfect.
from the community-based organization.
Good morning. Cindy Duenas, Center for Human Services. The other thing that I would say about the ARPA funding is that schools have received a lot of extra COVID money for the next year or two, and I've seen a lot of the districts investing in more intervention and counseling services for young people. And since the concern was about young people and suicide, I would encourage people to reach out to their schools. We have intervention specialists at a lot of schools, over 100 individuals embedded in schools, helping with immediate crises that are happening. And it's real, and it is COVID-related, and some of it was here before, but I would also just add that, as well as what Terry said about the continuum of care for mental health services that's being developed in the county. So,
very good. Thanks, Cindy. Okay. Good. Any other questions, comments? Perfecto. I can tell you're thinking about it. Good morning. How are you, Perfecto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Perfecto Munoz, and I'm the executive director of the West Modesto Community Collaborative as our business name. I'm here to acknowledge the fact that this particular program is going to really make a difference in how we provide services to the community. There was always talk about how do we make connections to these services, and by these ARPA monies, it will allow us to broaden how we serve our community as a whole. As you can see, that we are in 3 zip codes, 51, 54, and 58, and many of those zip code members of that community actually come to our office for services during the time of the challenges that we had under COVID-19. As many of you may have known, we were the epicenter. We were right in the middle of everything. I never seen so many people in need, so many people demanding, asking for services, from rental to assistance, food, you name it, it was there. And to the point where we have many of our family members who lost their jobs who were on the verge of being evicted. And what was being done to help these families that were in this stage of life, and moving from stability to non-stability. And so our agency has taken the position that we're going to do what we can for the community, whatever way we can do it. If there's funding from the state, from the local, outside funding that comes into our county from foundations, for example, to help us support what we do in our efforts there at our agency. One of the things that we're going to do is that we're going to use a referral engine, an actual data system that will allow us to search where services are available for members of our community that we don't necessarily have accessibility through our program, because we don't want to be replicating what other people are doing. We want to make sure we are giving them the right information and the right referral. So this referral system will allow us to look through the county, make the referral, but at the same time, the entity on the other end will be required to accept it or not accept it. And then if they do accept it, they inform us, and then they tell us what the outcome is. And that system, data system, is maintained in a hub where we can go back and look to see what exactly happened to that person. So it's not like refer somebody and then we're hoping that they make it. Many of the agencies have been in that capacity where they make a referral and they keep their fingers crossed to make sure that they make that, that connection. In our case, we're using a system, it's called United California, but it's a lot of information that is available to the county. And if some of our clients need services beyond what we have here, we can look through other locales, immigration services, services to address the problems of our immigrants in our community, because we have a large immigrant community. When you stop and think about West Modesto in 5-1 in the 2020 census, there are 70% of the community here is Latino. 45,000 people live in that section of what the census tract is in 5-1. So that just gives you the depth and the responsibilities that agencies like ourselves, because we're a small agency, but we do big things. I'm proud of our team. They were able to make those connections. And I think that by us focusing on what we can do to help these families, we're hoping that we can also, in the same respect, bring resources into the area of 5-1, 5-4, and 5-8, jobs, looking at housing, looking at some of the services that many of these families need, besides all the different navigation services that we provide. And these are important elements for success, because a healthy family is a job, then the house, and then their family. And what we have right now is it's upside down. They don't have a job, they don't have a place to live, and their families are struggling. So with this program that's funding us to do what we're going to do, we're hoping that we can do much bigger things in terms of trying to make the residents of those 3 zip codes improve their situations and their lives. So I want to thank you for allowing me to speak, and I appreciate everything that you do, and keep up the good work, Terry.
Thanks, Perfecto. Okay. Thank you, Perfecto. Okay, any other comments, or Ruben? Ruben, good morning.
Good morning. I was hesitant to come up, but I usually don't make comment on someone else's agenda item, but I thought it was important to do this for the public.
Cross my fingers.
So my name is Ruben Imperial. I'm the director for Stanislaus County Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. If you can go back to the previous slide really quick to the staff recommendations. I just wanted to point out that the organizations that were awarded the contracts for these general case management services are already mental health providers for us as well. We have a great partnership with the King Kennedy Center. And what we see the opportunity here is that this extends the reach of behavioral health in addition to other services. Given that they are already providers for us and they provide mental health services, they are really in a really good spot, especially with Sierra Vista and Center for Human Services. They've been, and Perfecto and the Multicultural Health Coalition have been working with us over the last several months to strengthen our mental health continuum of care. So I know that these services are not primarily focused on mental health, but we are confident we're going to work really closely together that if they encounter individuals that need mental health support, they're going to be able to refer them to whether our services or the managed care plan services or private health insurance. And this is we feel this is an extender of mental health for our organizations, especially with the organizations that were awarded the contracts. We have great partnerships, and we feel this is going to be a good thing, especially for our diverse communities, as Mr. Munoz has mentioned earlier. So just wanted to add that comment. So.
Thanks, Ruben. Joe?
Thank you. While Ruben's still up here, I do want to remind the board or members of the public that although this agenda item is not focused on funding for behavioral health and mental health programs, we have had many other prior agenda items where we have discussed that. Towards the end of last year, the board did approve about $1.2 million in some of our CARES Act funding that was remaining available to help the Behavioral Health Department keep in place some of the basic mental health safety net systems that were on the block essentially for budget reductions, and we did maneuver some of our CARES Act funding that was left over to support those programs. So be happy to answer any more questions about that, but we weren't prepared to present on mental health today, but we can talk about it quite a bit. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruben. Okay, anybody else? Any other comments? See none, I will bring it back to the board for some comments, questions.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a couple questions. Amanda, team, thank you for your report. In the award by area slide, if you could go back to that. Just curious, why not equal amounts throughout? Just due to population services that are already being provided? Why not, just make it equal all the way through?
Each area receives a different amount of services or seeks services more frequently. So we wanted to ensure that we covered and we provided adequate funding to those areas that use public services the most.
Okay. So more just strictly on demand? That
Correct.
There's more services to be provided in that area?
Correct.
Okay. And barrier removal, resolving the challenges of accessibility. I think we talked about one or hit on one as insurance being a barrier. Can you give some more examples of what might be a barrier?
Sure, and I always try to say removal of barriers because barrier removal is hard to say. So what we intend to do or hope to do is fund these organizations who can help bridge the gap, as Ruben just mentioned and is described in the presentation, in accessing the services that are already available. The example of the research and referral database is an excellent example to help break down the barriers to accessing services. A lot of services are available in this community, but people don't always know where to go or how to get them. They often know where their family resource center is. They often know where their community support lies, what organization they trust, and this funding will assist in people getting connected. That's also described under navigation services. So one barrier is just knowing what's available and how to get to that, and then providing the staff or the resources or the technology to link those two things. As I mentioned, there's a lot of services in the community, and people need the services now. So reducing barriers to access is an important part of the funding. So an example that you described earlier, or you mentioned, is one. Other barriers that people find is, for instance, not having insurance, but also maybe not having a job, not having an adequate place to live for the size of their family, not having services that they understand in their language or that are culturally appropriate. So this funding is able to help get into those areas to help people access what's available in the community in a way that helps them get to those services.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Buck. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Delilah and Mandy, thank you very much. Again, I thought Buck was going to point out that Turlock was deficient. I thought that's where he was headed. But no, I completely understand, again, where the services are. And I heard Ruben use the word extender, which is a perfect word. I always use multiplier effect and getting a bigger footprint, right? That's our goal with trusted people. And people tend to trust more than government. They tend to trust the people on the ground. West Modesto Collaborative, the Sierra Vista, the Family Resource Center, Center for Human Services, Aspiranet, and Turlock. So I completely am in support of this. I like to go back and think about what Mrs. Short had said earlier about that gap, and I know that's not what we're talking about today, but shortening that gap for when someone's having an episode, we can sign them up, get them through the process, but again, there's a time lapse there, and so that's important. Again, I'm glad you brought up schools because schools have definitely beefed up the mental health component. I know this isn't all about mental health. It just happens to be really important or more important today because of what we see these other effects. But again, great job. And I'm saying everyone nod their heads to the people who are going to receive some funding. Go out and do good things with this money, please, for sure.
Thanks, Vito. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you guys very much. Great presentation and good response from everybody here. today with regard to this. I love Mandy and Delilah. We talked about strengthening families, just exactly, that's right up our alley. That's what we're all about here with our focus on prevention. And this, whether it's mental health work or helping with jobs or housing or whatever it is, I'm very happy with the allocation. Unfortunately, it's a lot of the need is in my district. There's a lot of people that are in need of the help, and this is great that this is going to work this way. And helping these communities is not only lifts that community, it'll lift our entire county. If we're successful at this with the services we provide, we lift the entire county and make the lives of not only these people better and their families better, but all of our lives better. So this is good stuff. Unfortunately, we went through COVID. Fortunately, like I said in my State of the County speech, the government printed a lot of money, and they're giving us money to help deal with these issues. And the mental health issues, as we've talked about here, are obviously a lot of the issues that we're dealing with. Hopefully, a lot of it is mild to moderate at this point. It won't get to the point where it's severe mental illness for the county to be involved more. But at that mild to moderate level, through all these organizations to help with that. Like we talked about the schools, and I know we're partnering with the schools too. It seems like every school district now has a mental health department of some sort that is doing work and in coordination with our county. So this is very good stuff. And we appreciate it. We're very happy for all the organizations that were granted. And like Vito said, we're looking forward to good things and good results here. So with that, if there are no other comments, I will look for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We will move on now to item 6.2, approval for the district attorney to accept a grant award in the amount of $967,356 from the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services Victim Witness Assistance Program. Fiscal year 2021. Jeff, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good to see everybody. Good to see you. Morning, Chairman Withrow, members of the board, CEO Hayes, County Counsel Bose, Jeff Legero, and the Assistant District Attorney. I'm here on behalf of District Attorney Flatiger and the DA's office, and more specifically our Victim Services Unit. I appreciate the opportunity to address the board on this agenda item. My purpose is threefold here this morning. First and foremost is to personally and publicly thank our Victim Services Unit and the advocates that I've had the honor of working with for many years. As an attorney that prosecutes violent and serious crimes, we rely heavily on our advocates. Oftentimes they are the point of contact for victims and victim families who may have never been exposed to the criminal justice system. It's our advocates that are that point of contact that make sure they're informed, guide them, provide information and services to them. So I've had great experiences with our advocates, and they are an integral part of our operation. Second is to request the board approve the 4 staff recommendations on this agenda item. Those will help us continue to provide those services as well as become more efficient with the upgrade of one of the positions so that we can continue to provide great service to the victims and victims' families. And thirdly, I'm here to introduce our Victim Services Program Manager, Cheryl Titus. Many of you have met and seen her before, but she has a presentation highlighting the good work of our Victim Services Unit. So, Cheryl.
Thanks, Jeff. Cheryl, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. And thank you for the opportunity to be here again today to talk about victim services in the District Attorney's Office. I'd like to start with a video I have prepared for all of you. Well, believe it or not, there was music playing
It's
through
okay,
the
we didn't
entire
hear the
video.
music. We got the point. That was great.
At least you could see it.
That's right.
So during the past federal fiscal year, 11,765 people were victims of crime in our community and in need of our help. One of those people began his day on March 7th, 2021, as he would any other, except on that day he encountered the unimaginable and unexpected. He agreed that day to meet his ex and have a conversation. The conversation became violent when the victim was stabbed multiple times in his right ear, upper chest, chin, right knee, right wrist, left hand, leaving his face with permanent nerve damage. Gratefully, though, he was still alive. The defendant's actions that day changed the victim's life forever. We received in Victim Services the law enforcement report, assigned a victim advocate, and the advocate contacted the victim on March 11th, 2021. She continued assisting him throughout the criminal justice process. She helped him understand the criminal justice system and made him aware of his rights. She helped him navigate each of the next steps while he focused on his physical and emotional recovery. He struggled with the trauma of not only the violence and physical injury, but also the fact that this was carried out by someone he once loved. The advocate kept him updated on case proceedings, assisted him with an application for financial assistance with the California Victims' Compensation Board for medical bills and counseling. She provided any needed referrals, crisis intervention, escorted the victim to court for each hearing that he attended. She met with and coordinated with the assigned prosecutor and repeated many of these services as needed ongoing. Ultimately, the advocate helped him understand what a victim impact statement was and ensured his statement was read before the court. On January 31st, 2022, the defendant pled guilty to attempted murder and was sentenced to 14 years in prison and served with a 10-year criminal protective order restricting any contact with the victim. The advocate then made sure that the victim received his copy of the criminal protective order. The day the victim gave his victim impact statement, he wrote a few kind words to his victim advocate and gave us permission to share those with you today, and they also appeared in the video. Thank you. It was under unfortunate circumstances that I had met you, but you have been the biggest help in my trying time. I hope the best for you. So not all cases are this violent. Some are more, and some less. Not every victim wants our help. Some don't want to be a part of this process at all. And not all cases result in an outcome appreciated by the victim in the case. But it is fair to say that the victimization of this person and the outstanding service provided by this advocate is multiplied by thousands of victims and nearly 24 victim advocates in Stanislaus County each year. We don't always hear the appreciation like that expressed by the victim in this case, but we certainly celebrate when we do. The 11,765 victims I mentioned earlier were provided with 73,440 services during the year. 1,335 victims were also provided with sentencing information regarding the outcome of the case. And 135 victims were notified of the release from prison of the convicted defendant in their cases. I could continue on with numbers, but what I really hope you will do is recognize that the numbers are people. Picture, if you will, your mother and father, your sister or brother, daughter or son, your aunt or uncle, your neighbor next door, and the person down the street, the barista at your favorite coffee shop, the clerk who rang up your groceries last night when you stopped to pick up some milk on your way home, that sweet person you leave your child with at daycare, the young man who helped you at the auto parts store, the elderly woman you held the door for last week, or the woman at the desk in the office across from you. Every day, people in our community become victims of crime, and we are here to help them navigate the unimaginable and unexpected. In addition to assisting victims of crime, the Victim Services Unit is responsible for outreach and education in the community, sharing information about victims' rights and available services with literally everyone who will listen. Outreach has looked very different during the last 2 years due to COVID, but we have managed to continue to find ways to spread the word. We have utilized Facebook and Instagram to share information with the community and commemorate special awareness months and events. We have started our own YouTube channel to post information about our annual Homicide Victims Candlelight Vigil and activities for National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and we've conducted those events and activities virtually. We have developed our own podcast series called It's Your Right and provided a variety of episodes in English and Spanish to better assist community members. We are continually looking for ways to reach people with important information about victims' rights and strengthen our relationships with community-based organizations in Stanislaus County. This year, on April 23rd, we are returning to our annual Victims' Rights Rally and Family Safety Fair for National Crime Victims' Rights Week and throwing a very large 40th birthday party for the Victim Witness Assistance Program. You may have noticed in the video, this is the 40th year this county has had the Victim Witness Assistance Grant through the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services. And we intend to celebrate, and you are all invited to our birthday party, and we plan to have hats. So I hope you will join us. Alongside the Victim Witness Assistance Program, we are currently funded by 3 other Cal OES grants and have received the extension for calendar year 2022 for all 3. 2 of those grants will become competitive in 2023, and we anticipate receiving the RFP for those the 3rd quarter this year. Finally, for those who have seen me here before, you may have noticed something missing beside me. Honor is no longer working full-time in Stanislaus County, but we've worked out a little agreement with her, and she's made herself available to us from time to time to work with victims when possible, while we work towards securing a new facility dog, or maybe 2. Maybe 2, we'll see. It's a big project. We are in the beginning stages of that process now. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and shine a little light on the outstanding work performed by my team. They encounter people in crisis who are angry, afraid, confused, injured, and traumatized every day, and they do so with professionalism, competence, and compassion. Thank you all for your continued support. I'm certainly open to any questions that you have and would encourage Mr. Legero to join me.
Very good. Thanks, Cheryl and Jeff. Any questions? Vito.
So 40 years is pretty much continual. I guess it's always good when you receive grants and you're funding positions, you're always nervous about the grants disappearing, and you said something at the end about some of the grants becoming competitive. Is that the Voca Grant, or which ones, and what are they going to be looking for? Do you have any idea?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Victim Witness Assistance Program is our biggest grant. That's the one we're here about today, and it continues every year. Every county has a Victim Witness Assistance Program, and the size of it is dependent upon crime rates and the size of your community. The other grants, for example, the Elder Abuse Grant is a competitive grant. They all have Voca funding, but it's a competitive grant, so they will release a certain number of grants to, RFPs for those, and they'll say maybe we're funding 40 organizations, and so we'll need to compete for that again. That's one of the ones that we have now. There are underserved grants, underserved programs, or unserved. And so for us, we have identified victims of gang violence and monolingual Spanish-speaking victims to be our underserved or unserved populations. So we have a grant for that. That will be going competitive again as well. So, and we will write everything we need to write to try to be awarded again.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all you're doing.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you guys very much. Great presentation. It's funny, first of all, 11,765 victims, that's just kind of mind-boggling when you think of that. 11,000 people that were all victims in this county at some point in a year's time. So that's staggering in itself. and the work that you guys do, how this all kind of ties together, the work you do with these victims, the help you provide helps them. We're talking about mental health services, you know, it hopefully keeps people from getting into situations where they have these mental health issues and other problems in their life further down the road. And then if we're successful in the other ARPA stuff that we're dealing with, strengthening families, hopefully we get to where you guys don't have victims, you know, you don't have people that are, so everything's interrelated here. And we very much appreciate all the work you guys are doing. I'm sure it's so much appreciated by the victims, and I hope we get to the point where someday we don't have victims, but we'll see if we get to there. But thank you guys very much for all you do.
Thank you very much.
Anybody from the public have any comments or questions they'd like to make with regard to this item? Seeing none, okay, I will bring it back to the board, and we will look for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, passed unanimously. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much.
For all you do.
Thanks for the continued support of the DA's office as well.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, we will move on to correspondence.
This board has received the claims as noted on the agenda.
Acknowledge receipt of correspondence and refer as recommended on the agenda. Sorry, it's my new reading item. I haven't got that down yet. Okay, do we have any Board of Supervisor reports? Manny?
Yes, sir. As an avid basketball fan, it was an exciting basketball weekend this week. We had 4 teams out of 5 divisions that played at the state level. Modesto Christian at Division I, Turlock Christian at Division 4, Daenerys High School at Division 5, and Central Catholic at Division 3. And they all got the opportunity to play at the Golden One Center. So it was pretty exciting to see that. Stanislaus County was represented well.
Very good. Thank you. And I know we got a game tonight. We're talking about it, Central Catholic at 6 o'clock. So very good. Any other board reports? Okay, any legislative, fiscal, and management report? Chief Executive Officer Jody Hayes.
Just very brief, I want to recognize that we have passed the deadline for introduction of new bills in Sacramento, so we officially have a slate of bills to track locally and work with our local legislators on. I also want to acknowledge just kind of the flurry of information that's come out of Sacramento regarding changes on COVID protocols and so forth. I think everyone is tracking all of those news reports. We will be doing a deeper discussion on COVID-19 at our next board meeting. Thank you.
Very good, thanks. I want to thank John Gingrich today for being here and looking over us. Thank you, John. And before we head off into closed session, do you want to report?
Oh, yeah. Yes, we have closed session this morning. We have 2 items. The first item is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, that's subdivision D1. There's 1 case, Ishmael Hector Alvarez versus Alvino Lopez, and Alvino Lopez versus County of Stanislaus et al. Superior Court of California, County of Stanislaus, case number CV 21006600. The second item is a conference with the labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency negotiators are Jody Hayes, Tamara Thomas, Kira Vink, Burke Dumpy, and the labor organization is Service Employees International Union, Local 521. With that, would be appropriate for public comment.
Okay, any public comment on the closed session items? Seeing none, thank you all for being here. This meeting is adjourned.